What's good? It's Fever. Today I wanted to go over some great options for co-op games to play with your wife, your girlfriend, your significant other, maybe all three of them, as great co-op games can be quite rare, and a lot of the usual suspects for team-oriented games don't quite work when you want and need to keep the tone while playing them positive and end on a good note. This is a list of games that me and my wifey have put together from playing most of the co-op games that we can get our hands on, and she's a bit of a gamer herself, so keep that in mind. A quick note about the list: I'm disregarding MMORPGs and most first-party games, like, say, any co-op Nintendo game, or even some of the PlayStation titles like Little Big Planet, just to make the game more accessible for everybody. Going through every Mario game one after another could get boring, and you don't need me to tell you that Super Smash Bros. Or Mario Kart is a good game. The list is also slightly weird because it is in a top 10 style, but it's more accurately two separate top 5s, mine and hers, which will be indicated, and there are a lot of additional recommendations peppered within. I think I mentioned about 20 games in this list. So to start off strong, let's look at Castle Crashers. Now, even single player, this is on my list of most unexpectedly fun games. It has a great art style, it is incredibly noob friendly, and most important, local co-op, or rather couch co-op, something that you're going to see a lot in this list. There is incredible variety, and as someone who grew up visiting arcades, this game more than most captures that 4-joystick to a machine, side-scrolling, casual beat-em-up feel better than most games. I want to also point out that the developers, the Behemoth, also have a suite of other games, Pit People, Battle Block Theater, and Alien Hominid, that all do co-op so goddamn well in a similar type of art style and a quality level that makes them almost auto-recommends for anybody who are looking for a great game. Now, you can't have a list about co-op games and not mention the giant catalog of LEGO games. Now, I truly believe that much like Mario games, LEGO games are just distilled fun that play well with other people. And those other people can be avid gamers, they can be new gamers, young kids, adults. It really doesn't matter. These games are a one-size-fits-all way to just play. At this point, there are a ton of titles, and while I think most of them are worth playing, I would have to look at the Lord of the Rings and the Harry Potter series as the best, and the Indiana Jones and the Batman ones as the worst. But again, they're all good, and you may have a different opinion there. Orcs Must Die 2. Now, this game, I had to really sell to her to get her to play it. It's a third-person tower defense style game. It comes off a little bit comic booky, a little cartoony. It's quite cheesy. In essence, you're just going to be trying to stop waves and waves of orcs with your attacks and setting up traps, and if you spend some time and watch YouTube videos of the game, even Twitch streams, it really doesn't do it justice. It seems very meh. But as she found out, being in the game is incredibly different. The levels are designed for co-op, which is nice. Nothing is too complicated. The controls are nice. It's mindless fun where you're laughing and it's goofing off, but more than anything, there is this strong understated gameplay of relying on the other person, right? You grab the left spawn, I'll grab the right, and let me know if you need help, and then reacting with good communication when shit ends up hitting the fan. And then, if and when you fail, which you might not because the difficulty is pretty meh, reassessing a strategy and working together in order to beat it. Now, we both went into this game thinking not much of it, but our main criticism was that the game didn't have enough levels. We wanted more. We tried to get that same feel from Dungeon Defenders 2 and Sanctum 2, both of which are great games, but really didn't hit us the same as Orcs Must Die. The only game that got close was the Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare game, which I think hit a little bit harder just because we were familiar with the IP already. Shifting to a completely different genre, let's talk Borderlands 2. There seems to be magic in the second installment of most co-op games. For people who haven't played the Borderlands series, these are loot and shoot games. There is a story, there's a main campaign, but there's also post-story, post-campaign gameplay, and they play very action RPG with guns, right? There are many different types of guns with different stats, with different elements. They're shot by these characters with unique skills that you can build individually that all just funnel into killing stuff that, as we get better stuff, we kill them faster, and the damage numbers from our guns and abilities go up and up and up and up, and this kind of constant progression really feeds into something internally. And Borderlands 2 is one of the best meldings of RPG and shooter that has come around, and it's a shooter for people who don't quite like shooters. And because of the graphic style, it's aged okay. I actually think that Borderlands 2 is the most played Borderlands game on Steam currently, and much like a lot of the games that she has found fun, it's a game that doesn't take itself too seriously at all. Sticking with the action RPG, Diablo 3 for the console. Now, I enjoyed the PC version. I think a lot of people do. Even the people with strong opinions about the game, a lot of which turn out to be negative, I think stem not from Diablo 3 being like a failure or doing something wrong, but frustration that it isn't updated and supported to the same extent that they want or that other games are. Regardless, the console edition of Diablo 3 plays and feels entirely different. Like, it just feels like an entirely different game. Again, much like a lot on this list, it has couch co-op, it has incredible controller support, and it winds up feeling a lot like a next-gen Gauntlet game, which, a side note, Gauntlet games are great, and it just works. The game has a lot of it rebuilt for the console, whether it's interface or the gameplay, which does make it different than just playing the PC version with a controller. The console version just feels so fluid and simple and pure, and if you just Google like Diablo 3 console, you're gonna get nothing but people saying like, wow, the console version is so much better than PC, because it really is. Now, if you were going to play an action RPG game on the PC with your spouse, I'd actually probably lean towards Torchlight 2. Next, we have the Rayman games, specifically Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends. These are my least favorite games on the list, yet some of her favorite. Rayman games are great platformers in their own right. In fact, they're a great example of what modern platforming games can be, and these are designed well for co-op. Again, the aesthetic and the art style and the music, it's almost jovial in tone. It doesn't take itself too seriously, that she loves, but her big takeaway from the game is that it felt fair. If we died, it wasn't due to some cheap obstacle, and there's very little stress on personal performance. As long as we both end the level, our scores are getting added together, and it doesn't feel like either of us beat the other person. We beat the level together equally, which is important if there's a mismatch in the gaming ability of both players. Another great platformer is next on the list, Trine 2. This is a different take on the platform genre than Rayman. Also, yes, Trine 3 is out, but Trine 2 was where the real magic happened. There are very few games that I would say are beautiful, yet this one definitely is beautiful. As a platformer, this is a more puzzle-oriented, playing around in an almost physics-based sandbox to deal with different puzzles, and more importantly, a ton of interactions between characters with their own abilities and strengths to enable different methods of clearing levels. The constant back and forth of like, hey babe, can you do X? Cool. Can you handle those baddies? Cool. What should we do here? Definitely was more prominent in this game than other games, and really gives you that feeling of working together to achieve something. Another game that strongly relies on that feel, yet it's overlooked quite a bit, is Chariot. I liked Chariot a lot. She felt it was a little bit tedious, and usually it's one person taking the reins and the other person just following. Similarly, an honorable mention goes to Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light. It's a good game that I don't think aged too well. This is the same category that like Army of Two would be in, but if you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel looking for things to play, it's not too bad, just make sure you use a controller. I've never been a fan of survival type games. I think it's been a visual quality level thing for me. I just can't get over the super blocky, grid-based aesthetics that are common, and a lot of the 3D ones are very janky, indie looking, so without a love of the genre, I was skeptical before trying this next game on the list, Don't Starve Together. Now, this is a multiplayer version of the original Don't Starve, and puts you into this hyper-stylized, nightmare-fueled wilderness where you're doing a lot of what you would do in other survival games. Forage for materials, secure food, defend against enemies, and really just survive. Don't Starve Together has quite a few interesting things that can happen, which I don't want to spoil for you, but appealed to me way more than like, oh no, a creeper. And I forgot where I read this term, but the game acts as a great story generator. Loading a game up for the night, saying, hey, let's play till we die, generally leads to some sort of situation that you laugh off because you ended up cutting down too many trees or the pigmen with forks got angry. And the last specific game call out on this list was probably the game that we have had the most fun with, and that is Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Now, this is a very old GameCube game. This isn't an underrated game by any means, but it's an underplayed game. Most who have played it in co-op up to 4 people know just how incredible a game this is, and it's been a while since it's been released and isn't worth playing without someone else. It's a game that I'm rooting for if Nintendo ever makes a GameCube Mini to include so that people can get the opportunity to play this. I don't want to go over anything specifically here because I'm not going to urge anybody to buy a GameCube to play this game, but just know that this is a great game if you can get your hands on it. And for the number 1 spot, I guess in our top 10, I'm going to go a little bit off the wall here because between the both of us, when we made our own lists and compared something we both liked a lot, we both said it was sharing our favorite games and almost backseat gaming sometimes, right? Re-experiencing games through watching the other person play it, regardless of if they were single-player games or not. I mean, sometimes we could make up our own weird co-op rules, like swapping the controller back and forth, or alternating decision-making, or I control X character and she controls Y character, but there is something about watching someone experience, say, Journey, or Shadow of the Colossus, or Link to the Past for the first time, and there's someone whose reactions and enjoyment you really care about. And I know that this might seem like a cop-out, which is why I jam-packed so many different titles as recommendations, but so many people enjoy watching strangers stream on Twitch, and we found watching each other, sometimes even just as background noise, sometimes invested, sometimes relaying walkthrough or achievement criteria, or telling them to kill a specific NPC, or use a special party member, or ad-lib the character names. It was fun, and it also acted as a way to experience playing a game with somebody else, but in a more inactive way. Because even when you look at the list of games here, or when you look at a list of co-op games, there's kind of like a different mood you need to be in, right? You're in a different mood if you wanted to, say, play an action RPG versus if you wanted to play a party game, versus if you wanted to play something a little bit more competitive, which I kind of left off here. And this is just another mood to kind of be in. At the end of the list, though, I should probably cover my bases and curb some of the, you didn't mention this game, you didn't mention that game. Portal and Magicka are games that people rave about, people enjoy them. We didn't. Honestly, I think Portal is a little bit overrated. Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, Overcooked, most MOBAs, Rocket League. Again, these are games that people enjoy. They're probably the most recommended games now. For us, both as gamers who can get a little bit competitive, it's not that we ever start yelling at each other when we play these type of games, but sometimes when we play these games, we feel like maybe we messed up or we goofed, and we can sometimes end up feeling like we let the other person down, and it just didn't hold on to that pure, positive, fun experience that I want to have when I'm playing a game with my significant other. I mean, we already do things outside of gaming to fulfill that competitive drive together, so when we do play games, we just want to have fun. So that's my list of games. If you have any other great games to mention, leave them in the comments, and until next time, this is Fever. Pulse.